I was a little concerned about recording this video. I knew this was going to be a challenging one for me, at least. I started to get text messages and emails about the fact that, hey Faye, can you open up and talk about what it's like to be an Asian woman, an Asian immigrant over the age of 35, and hashtag childfree. I remember carrying my GoPro, taking a walk in the afternoon, trying to kind of get in the zone of getting ready to be able to talk about this. And I remember thinking about, was I carrying myself in such a way that was appropriate for this topic? So I want to speak to and really have a conversation with immigrant women out there, in particular Asian immigrants over the age of 35. And the reason is I turned 36 a few months ago. And for me to evaluate my career, where I am in my life, I am quite happy. I mean, career-wise, I couldn't complain. It's been 4 years since I started freelancing. I get to travel around the world. I get to go back to China to visit my mom. But if someone, or in a traditional sense, trying to look at my life and talk about the things that I don't have, the first thing that comes to mind, and it's really easy to point to, is that I don't have children. And I want to really be able to talk about this. A lot of women feel somehow, maybe ashamed is a very strong word, but a lot of women, including myself, really used to feel this way, and I'm still struggling with that on and off. So first of all, as a woman, or if you have couples that you're friends with over the age of 30, or even in their late 20s after they get married, oftentimes, no matter where you go, where you travel to, the most common question that comes up, or even just, over brunch or whatever, people like to ask, when are you gonna have kids? Are you planning on having children, and how many kids do you want to have? Look, so there are a couple of scenarios, there are a number of scenarios why people don't have children, right? We often think of it as purely their choice, and that's what I thought for my entire life. In fact, my mom, along with her, 4 sisters, they all loved children. They had kids right away. My mom actually took a few years, and later on, I heard about these very heartbreaking abortions because the birth control method didn't really work back in the old days, and now, we're more advanced. But I never for a second thought, getting pregnant would be an issue. It just never occurred to me. And over the years, because I have been friends with people who are actually older than I am, I get to see a lot of the things I never really anticipated or even thought twice about it, which was really ignorant on my part. And as I'm releasing all these freelance episodes talking about business, building marketing plans, and how to thrive for you as a businesswoman, and I still strongly believe in all of that, but I started to get text messages and emails about the fact that, hey Faye, can you open up and talk about what it's like to be an Asian woman, an Asian immigrant over the age of 35? And hashtag childfree. I think it's really time for us to address this for people who are watching this video, whether you're younger or you're older and you don't have any fertility issues, or you're the ones who always wanted to have kids and had kids right away and raising beautiful, healthy children. And I feel really happy for you. But there are also a lot of women out there, especially immigrants, who spend so much of their early days and years really just trying to make it. And I think this may be a series of episodes I want to address to talk about all the struggles I had working as an immigrant, and that moment I thought I really made it, which was not that long ago, I don't think. I think it was 2013, 14. I remember that precise moment when I was driving. I was driving down Copley Square, and it's downtown area here in Boston, Massachusetts. And I had the sunroof open, and it was pretty late at night, around 8 or 9 p.m. as I was driving back from work. And in that moment, I just felt the wind hitting my face. It was one of those rare, nice days in Boston. And I actually felt like I made it. I almost want to celebrate that moment as well as indulging it myself. And the reason why I felt that way a few years ago was shortly after I got my green card. So in fact, that wouldn't be 2013. That would be after 2015. I got my green card in October 2015. And, I don't think these stories are very resonating with people who haven't lived through it, or people who have been friends or friended the international population, no matter where your friends are from, doesn't matter. I used to think that people from the UK had no struggles when it comes to immigrant status and all. That's not true at all. But I just want to kind of just pause and discuss that. And the second part of why I'm recording this video is talking about women without children or family or immigrant family without children just yet. Few scenarios I think we need to talk about. One, there are people who don't or prefer not to have kids, and I have full respect for that. Maybe there's more that they want to do in their lives and they want to contribute, or whatever reason that may be. Honestly, I also know families who have people with illness, people with disabilities, could be their spouse or could be their siblings that they're already struggling with, and as a result they decide not to have children. That's not for me to judge, not for you to judge, but people have to make very hard decisions. And there are people who don't want to have kids. Now, there's a really big population, not just say Asian immigrants, who do want to have kids, and they're unable to for a number of reasons. First of all, infertility issues is a really big deal. I had no idea until recent years, not just with women, but also men. The split is almost 50-50. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to give advice or provide stats for you guys. A lot of the times when you go to these clinics, what you find out is that neither one of you have quote unquote issues that are detectable. So that's also known as unexplained infertility. And I have a lot of friends who are going through that, and it's devastating because you want to fix it, but you don't even know what's, it apparently there's nothing wrong and you don't know how to fix or what to fix. Now, there's also a really big category of people with actual infertility issues. And it's not just a single issue. As our bodies are very complex systems, there could be a lot of things that could go wrong, especially for women. There are different parts that all have to work in conjunction. And then there's another category of women who really want to have kids, but who are not really in committed or long-term relationships. They are 36, 37 into their 40s. They're not sure how to make it happen. I know women who have gone to the sperm banks and, gone through the whole process, IVF, and able to get pregnant and raise kids on their own. And it's very challenging. Whatever you choose to do, if you're watching this video and you're going through these difficulties, I'm just so glad that you're here. I know it's almost, as a woman, like we almost feel ashamed or painful or embarrassed, however those emotions may be, especially late at night. Now we've got our smartphones, we're going through WebMD, trying to figure out what's wrong with us and what we did wrong in our lives, and trying to kind of figure out the puzzle pieces. And we lose our sleep, and we have to go to work the next day. We have to build our company the next day. It's really difficult and challenging. And I want you to know that you're not the only one. But in this video, I think there's an opportunity for us to really address the issue, acknowledge the issue, but then be able to address it as well. So I think number one that comes to mind is the voice that you use to talk to yourself is really important. Do not sabotage yourself. Do not go on WebMD and look through and read through every article for months, for weeks or months. It's not good for your health. Think about the way you talk to yourself, the way you acknowledge the issue that you're going through, whether that you don't have a boyfriend or a long-term relationship, or a relationship that you're currently in that you feel that you can actually could result in a family or having children, or perhaps blaming yourself for having these issues, whether it's infertility issues or other medical or non-medical issues that prevent you from having children. And, just because other people are going through IVFs, just because other people are adopting, these are clearly options, but don't force yourself into choosing something that you're not ready for, that you feel like it's not you, it's not really your decision, but instead you're getting pressure from everyone else, everywhere else, to make those decisions instead. So I want to talk about what to do if this is you, if this is happening to you. Any of the scenarios above. I think number one is to be very careful, but also be very wise about choosing the voice that you use to talk to yourself. Ask yourself, if you have a child, or, would you talk to your daughter in that voice? Would you talk to your dog or your friend in that voice? you probably wouldn't. Sometimes we are ourselves worst enemies and worst criticists. And that's not fair. And you got to be very careful about that voice. And if you know that voice doesn't work, that voice is hurting you, you better choose another voice. So definitely take a pause and think about that. Number two is I think you need to take time for yourselves. Find things that you're happy with, whether that's personal training, whether that's a Zumba class, whether that's playing tennis with your friends, or something to do by yourselves. Sometimes we wait for other people to join us in an event to kind of feel that excitement. Maybe it's okay for you to also go see a show, a Broadway show, a circus show on your own. And I want you to think about your career for a second. And it's not just your full-time job, but think about in the long run, what do you want to have in your life? And, what is the career path? Or a different types of career you could consider. Could it be a life and a career that's more fulfilling, a career that's filled with creativity? And I always like to say that, life is filled with opportunities and excitement. So while you're going through these challenges, make sure that they don't go past you by. And there is something else that we don't really learn or often not thought about growing up is if you don't like the way that other people, meaning perhaps your family and some of your close friends are talking to you about raising kids, starting a family, maybe there's an opportunity to educate them in a friendly way on how they could pick some of the topics. It's up to you how much you want to reveal in how you want to share if there are any medical issues that you're experiencing. But you could change the topics. How about next time you have brunch or breakfast with someone and you start talking about the shows that you're going to and the new project you're working on, or maybe the new volunteering opportunities that you just signed up for. There's so much to talk about in life, and it doesn't have to be constrained to family and children alone, especially when you're still single, especially before you have a family. Tony Robbins once said that your happiness is how you talk to yourself. So if you're watching this video and you don't really know if anybody is going through these situations, I just want to let you know that many people are, and especially if you're approaching late 20s and beyond. And I know that there are men and women who are struggling to have kids and we're actively working on it into their 40s as well, 30s and into their 40s. I think just to be a little more mindful and know that it's a very challenging period of your life. And the decisions and, the procedures are not all that straightforward, which I'm going to talk in a second. But there's an opportunity. And if you know someone who's going through this, perhaps you have gone through it yourself, or you know somebody who is currently going through that, you could offer yourself up for advice, for comfort, if they choose to approach you in that way. I must say that for me personally, there's several women in my life who approach me to be open and talk about what it's like to have a family, what it's like to not have families. There are pros and cons in each of these categories. I think we are raised to believe that our life, as women, especially as Asian women, that somehow our value, the definition of who we are is really based on how good, exclusively based on family value and the value of our children. So I think as a grown-up, we need to be able to better define that and stand our ground and take a stance on who we are and what we stand for. And moreover, how we can contribute to other people's lives. I have to say that because I don't have children in my life right now, I am a really fun aunt to some of my friends' kids. I know I'm not officially an aunt by blood, but I also have young cousins who I'm in touch with constantly. My partner's nephews are also young adults at this point, and I'm really good friends with them. And I talk to them about their careers, about their lives, about their dating lives, however they want to approach me, and how I can contribute to their lives is really important to me. And that's something that I feel like we often don't talk about, right? We look at our kids and so that we can say that these are our children, they look like us, and here are all the skills that they have, here are the schools that they go to. But we should also pay attention to other people in our lives, even though not related to us by blood, but we're also contributing too. In fact, you could have a bigger variety of friends and colleagues and people you have in your lives that you can really help enrich their lives. And it's really satisfying. And I'm sure that this doesn't require a lot of explanation because all of us have done it. You can see kind of their eyes lit up, and you give them something that they've always wanted, that they really need, but also experiences. You can travel with your friends and you go to see shows with them. You can have a conversation with them. You can be there when they're going through a grieving process and they're going through illness themselves. And that's what I noticed. So there is a lot to celebrate, even when you're single, even when you have a family, when you have a husband or wife or partner with no kids. So life can be celebrated and there can be a lot of good moments that happen. And I really want you to consider maybe writing some of that down and celebrate it, talk about it with your friends, and wake up with a smile. So I hope you find this video helpful. I am still learning how to have these more conversational videos on things that are rather sensitive to me as well as to the listener, to the watchers like yourself. So thank you for giving me this opportunity and for me to connect with you. And if you have any questions, comments, I would love to see them. And hope to see you in a future video. Take care. Bye for now.